Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Musin Jamil from Medical Unit 5. Today we will discuss an important topic of the rheumatology. Before going to start the discussion, you will see the picture of the patient who was asked to stand with the head along the wall. The patient was unable to stand with the head along the wall, while the patient, a normal person, can do it easily as shown in the figure. Patient was asked to lie down on the couch without a pillow. The patient was unable to rest his head along the couch. So we will discuss an important topic of the rheumatology, which is seronegative arthropathies. Seronegative spondyloarthropathies consists of the clinical syndromes that are linked in the term of disease manifestations and genetic susceptibility. These all are related to the HLA-B27. In all these cases, HLA-B27 is positive. This is a systemic relationship of the different seronegative arthritis. It consists of the ankylosing spondylitis, reactive arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, enteropathic arthritis, and undifferentiated spondyloarthropathy. The pathology in the synovitis is non-specific. There is a marked degree of extrasynovial inflammation, and inflammation tends to resolve with extensive fibrosis prone to the calcify and ossify. This may characteristically lead to the joint fusion. Syndesmophytes are the characteristic feature of the seronegative arthritis. These are the bony spurs that bridge the adjacent vertebrae or protrude at the site of the ligament attachment. The large central cartilaginous joint, sacroiliac, intervertebral disc, symphysis pubis are the particularly involved. Clinical features which are common to the seronegative arthritis are asymmetrical inflammatory oligoarthritis, more common in the lower limb than upper limb, sacroiliitis and inflammatory spondylitis, inflammatory enthesitis, and tendency for the familial aggregation, no association with the seropositivity for the rheumatoid factor. That is, rheumatoid factor is always negative, and absence of the nodules and other extra-articular manifestation of the rheumatoid arthritis. There are some overlapping extra-articular feature of the typical in this group. These are the mucosal surfaces inflammation such as conjunctivitis, buccal ulceration, urethritis, prosthitis, and inflammatory bowel ulceration. The pustular skin lesion and nail dystrophy, anterior uveitis, aortic root fibrosis, erythema nodosum. As we have discussed earlier, there is an association of HLA-B27 occurs in all the seronegative arthritis. This picture shows the clinical condition related to the mucosal surfaces ulceration, anterior uveitis. This is a clinical scenario of the one of the disease of the seronegative arthritis. We will go through the scenario and then we will discuss in detail. A 22-year-old man develops in the insidious onset of the low back pain, improved with the exercise and worsened by the rest. There is no history of diarrhea, conjunctivitis, urethritis, rash or nail changes. On examination, the patient has loss of the mobility and with respect to the lumbar flexion and extension. He has kyphotic posture and there is an early diastolic murmur in the aortic 2 area. A plain film of the spine shows the sclerosis of the sacroiliac joint. The calcification is noted in the anterior spinal ligament. So what is the diagnosis according to this scenario? Diagnosis of this scenario we will discuss in detail in the next slides. Diagnosis of the scenario is ankylosing spondylitis. It is a prototype of the seronegative spondyloarthritis. It is a chronic inflammatory arthritis with pre-relation to the sacroiliac joint and spine. It is characterized by the progressive stiffening and fusioning of the axial skeleton. Incidence is more common in the second and the third decades. Male to female ratio is 3:1, that is more common in the male. Prevalence is about 0.5%. high prevalence of HLA-B27. The clinical features are some spinal features. The onset is usually insidious over the months or years with recurring episode of the low back pain and marked stiffness. The symptoms are most common in the early in the morning and after inactivity and are relieved by the movement. This is a characteristic feature of the ankylosing spondylitis. The lumbosacral area is usually the first and the worst affected region in some patients. The spine becomes progressively ankylosed, spinal rigidity and secondary osteoporosis predispose to the spinal fractures, presenting as acute, severe, and localized pain. The early physical signs include the failure to obliterate the lumbar lordosis on the forward flexion, the pain in the sacroiliac compression, and restriction of the movement of the lumbar spine in all the direction. The spinal fusion in the marked kyphosis of the cervical vertebrae results in the forward flexion of the neck, as we have this picture. In this picture, the patient was asked to stand with the head along the wall. The patient was unable to do so, while a normal person can do so easily. It is due to the kyphosis of the cervical vertebrae. The extra articular feature of ankylosing spondylitis, it includes the anterior uveitis in 25% of the cases, conjunctivitis 20%, prostatitis 80%, and some cardiovascular disease like aortic incompetence, mitral incompetence, cardiac conduction defects, and pericarditis, amyloidosis, and atypical upper lobe pulmonary fibrosis. This picture shows the upper lobe pulmonary fibrosis. Pleuritic chest pain due to the involvement of the costovertebral joints, plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendinitis, and tenderness over the bony prominences such as iliac crest and greater trochanter, fatigue, extraspinal extraspinal synovial joint involvement is common in the 40% of the cases. This picture shows the plantar fasciitis. These are the Achilles tendinitis. This picture shows the Achilles tendinitis. These are the radiological signs. Sacroiliitis is often the first abnormality beginning in the lower synovial part of the joints. Irregular and loss of the cortical margins, widening of the joint space, sclerosis, narrowing, and fusion. This is the closer view of the joint fusion and sclerosis of the sacroiliac joint. This is a picture of the spine. It is a lateral thoracolumbar spine X-ray, squaring of the vertebrae due to erosion and sclerosis of the anterior corner and periostitis of the waist. These are the fine symmetrical margin of syndesmophytes as we have discussed earlier, typical of the ankylosing spondylitis. This is a picture of the spine of the patient having an ankylosing spondylitis, the bamboo spine of the severe late ankylosing spondylitis, symmetrical marginal syndesmophytes, sacroiliac joint fusion, and generalized osteopenia, and there is a fusion of the anterior spinal ligament as shown in this picture. Of the management include to relieve the pain and stiffness, maintain the maximum range of the skeletal mobility, and avoid the deformity. The patient education and appropriate physical activity are the cornerstone of the management. Perform the regular daily back extension exercises, including the morning warm-up routine, and to punctuate the prolonged period of the inactivity. Swimming is an ideal exercise for this. These are the patient for the ankylosing spondylitis. Poor bed and chair posture must be avoided. NSAIDs are effective in relieving the symptoms but do not alter the course of the disease. Long-standing NSAIDs at the night particularly helpful for the marked morning stiffness. Slow-acting anti-rheumatic drugs like sulfasalazine, methotrexate, azathioprine may control the persistent peripheral joint synovitis. Anti-TNF therapy may be offered Local corticosteroid injection can be useful for the persistent plantar fasciitis and other enthesopathies. Oral steroids may occasionally be required for the acute uveitis but should otherwise be avoided. Severe hip pain, knee, and the shoulder restriction may require the surgery, and total hip arthroplasty may be offered. Diagnosis of the ankylosing spondylitis is around 75% of the patients with ankylosing spondylitis are able to remain in employment and enjoy the good quality of the life. Severe hip pain and shoulder disease carries a worse prognosis. We will move towards the next scenario. 20-year-old man complains of the arthritis and pain and eye irritation. He has history of burning on urination. On examination, there is a joint effusion of the right knee and rash of the glans penis, as shown below in the pictures. There are some lesions on the soles as well. Lesions over the sole and the lesion on the glans penis. The diagnosis of this scenario is reactive arthritis. Reactive arthritis is also called the Ritter's arthritis. It is most common in the young men. Male to female ratio is 15:1. It consists of the clinical triad of non-specific urethritis, conjunctivitis, and arthritis. The onset is typically acute with the development of the urethritis, conjunctivitis, and inflammatory oligoarthritis, affecting the large and the small joints of the limbs for 1 to 3 weeks, following the sexual exposure and or attack of the dysentery. The systemic disturbance with fever, weight loss, vasomotor changes in the feet. The additional extra articular features are sarcinerblanitis, keratoderma blanorhegicum, nail dystrophy, and buccal erosions. The precipitating factors are bacterial dysentery, mainly Salmonella, Shigella, Campylobacter, or Yersinia, or sexually acquired infection with chlamydia. These are the sarcinerblanitis, as we have discussed, vesicles on the corneal margin and prepuce. These are the pain. This is the keratoderma blanorrhegica. This figure shows the nail dystrophy with subungual hyperkeratosis. The chronic features are the self-limiting with spontaneous remission of the symptoms within 2 to 4 months, recurrent or the chronic arthritis 60% of the patient, low back pain and stiffness from the sacroiliitis. Uveitis occurs in 30% of the patient, and other common features include the cardiac abnormalities such as aortic incompetence, conduction defects, pleuropericarditis. Peripheral neuropathy such as foot drop and ulnar neuritis can also occur. The investigation include the acute phase reactants like raised ESR, CRP, normochromic normocytic anemia. Aspiration of the joint fluid shows the inflammatory like low viscosity turbid and often contains the giant macrophages or Ritter cells. Urethritis may be confirmed by the two-glass test by demonstration of the mucoid threads in the first void specimen that clear in the second. High vaginal swab may reveal the chlamydia culture and serum agglutinin. Radiological signs are the mild periosteal osteopenia, joint space narrowing, marginal proliferative erosions. Radiographic sacroiliitis is often asymmetrical and sometimes unilateral, and syndesmophytes are predominantly coarse, asymmetrical, and the beyond the contour of the annulus fibrous. These are the similar pictures as we have seen, as we have discussed in the ankylosing spondylitis. Fine symmetrical marginal syndesmophytes and coarse. These are the similar type of finding as we have discussed with the ankylosing spondylitis. The management includes a symptomatic and sportive treatment with NSAIDs, judicial aspiration of the joints, intra-articular or other local corticosteroid injection, anti-rheumatic therapy with azathioprine or methotrexate in severe progressive arthritis and intractable Keratoderma blepharographia. Tetracycline, non-specific for the chlamydial urethritis. Anterior uveitis is a medical emergency requiring the topical, subconjunctival or systemic corticosteroids. We will move towards the next scenario. A 45-year-old woman complains of the 12 weeks of the pain and swelling in the small joints of hands and feet. She also complains of the pain in elbow and knee joint. There is a history of the morning stiffness for more than an hour. On examination, her proximal and distal interphalangeal joints are tender and swollen. What is your diagnosis? The diagnosis is a psoriatic arthritis. Psoriatic arthropathy is common in the age of 25 to 40 years of the age. The patient with current or the previous skin psoriasis in 70% of the cases. It predates the onset of the psoriasis in 20%. Small portion of arthritis, but never develops a skin lesion. Association with nail dystrophy is common. The clinical feature includes the asymmetrical inflammatory oligoarthritis in 40% of the cases, symmetrical polyarthritis in 25% of the cases, predominant distal interphalangeal joint arthritis in 15% of the cases, and psoriatic spondylitis in 15% of the cases. Inflammatory oligoarthritis, this may affect the lower and upper limbs, often with the combination of synovitis and periarticular inflammation. It is most characteristic when a finger or a toe is involved by the synovitis of its large joint and tendinosynovitis. Usually only one or the two large joints are involved, mainly knee, with often very large effusion. The onset is often abrupt but with the mild symptoms and no systemic features. Next is symmetrical polyarthritis. It is predominant in the women's. It resembles with the rheumatoid arthritis with symmetrical involvement of small and large joints in both upper and lower limbs. But nodules and extra-articular features of the rheumatoid arthritis are absent, and joint disease is generally less extensive and more benign. Much of the hand deformity often results from the tenosynovitis and soft tissue contractures. Predominant distal interphalangeal joint involvement. This is very characteristic form that mainly affects the men and predominantly targets the distal interphalangeal joints and the surrounding periarticular tissue, almost invariably with accompanying nail dystrophy. Psoriatic spondylitis. This presents a similar clinical picture to the ankylosing spondylitis but tends to be less severe. It may occur alone or with any of the other clinical pattern of the peripheral arthritis. Arthritis mutilans. This is a deforming erosive arthritis, targets the fingers and the toes, marked cartilage and the bone attrition result in the loss of the joint and instability. The enhancing the skin appears. This is a picture showing invaginated and nail changes in the psoriatic arthritis. Interaction and pull the management finger includes the prognosis to the original and the rheumatoid other joints of the hand and or the arthritis may show ankylosis. Symptomatic agents such as simple analgesics and topical or oral NSAIDs are usually that are all is required. Intra-articular injection may help to control the florid synovitis, but it is a temporarily. Regular exercises is most important for the persistent peripheral arthritis. Sulfasalazine, methotrexate, or azathioprine may be required, but all these have a little or no benefit for the axial disease. Methotrexate and azathioprine may also help in severe skin psoriasis. The retinoic acid is effective in treating the arthritis as well as skin lesion, but must be avoided in young women because of its teratogenicity. The use is complicated by the mucocutaneous side effects, hyperlipidemia, myalgias, and extraspinal calcification. Now the last scenario is 23-year-old male presented with swelling and pain of the left knee and the right elbow joint. He has repeated complaints of such episodes over the last 3 years. He also gives a history of chronic diarrhea. He passed 3 to 4 stools which are scanty containing mucus and occasionally mixed with the blood. He has history of redness and irritation of the eyes. What is the most likely diagnosis? According to the scenario, it is arthritis associated with inflammatory bowel disease. Two patterns of the seronegative inflammatory arthritis are associated with ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Enteropathic arthritis, acute inflammatory oligoarthritis, and large lower limb joints such as knees, ankles, hip are most commonly affected. Arthritis coincides with the exacerbation of the underlying bowel disease. Sometimes is association with aphthous mouth ulcers, arthritis, and erythema nodosum. It it ceases to be the problem of following a total colectomy for the ulcerative colitis. The higher prevalence of the arthritis in Crohn's disease may reflect the greater difficulty in eradicating the bowel disease. And the second is the sacroiliitis and ankylosing spondylitis. Thank you. It's all for the today's lecture.